done order of the tracks, labels. Make sure that those labels make sense to you. Listen to the tracks, change those names. That's the important part. We've changed the colors, and I'm going to do trims. I do add a trim on every single channel at the very beginning. So I'm going to press Option and click on any of the tracks, and I'm going to go into a mono track. I'm going to press Shift Option. I'm working on a Mac. If you work on a PC, please find the alternative for it. And I'm going to go to Plugins, Avid or Other, and I'm going to find for the trim one. Again, I press Shift Option before I did it, and I had all of the tracks selected. And all of my trims, let me get rid of the color palette here, jumped open up. Remember, I started on a mono track. It doesn't have to be the first one, but it has to be a mono track. Why so? Because if you do it on a stereo, it wouldn't do to the mono tracks. And it already jumped and put it to -12 because that's a preset that I already had created. And all of my tracks are at -12. Here are a couple things of why I do this. It's mainly gain structure. Let me create a master fader stereo at the end. And I don't need you to listen, so I'm actually going to mute my track, but I want you to I want to find the loudest part of the track, or one of the loudest part of the track. And I'm going to hit play, and I want you to look at this. Right now, without moving the faders, everything at 0, with my trims, I am seeing that I am kind of peaking at -2, -3, around there. So I'm in the safe zone. I'm going to hit stop. I'm going to bypass all of my plugins. To do so, I'm going to press Option Command so all of them get bypassed. And I'm going to hit on the exact same place, play again. Look at this. So before we even start, we will be distorting drastically. We are distorting our 2-bass routing. That's why I start with the trim plugin, so I can move faders freely whenever needed and know that I have enough headroom for that to work. I'm going to back off now on how I made it to -12. Originally, when I first learned this, which I actually learned it out of a forum on Gearslots, I started doing it by -6, then -10, and finally I have settled to -12. I'm going to explain you two things in here, and why I do this and how I do it, so that every time that I load the trim, it actually jumps to -12 already. The first thing, when you open any plugin, in this case I'm going to do the trim, I'm going to open it up, and you guys will see it the way, let me find trim, okay. I'm going to go back to default, factory default. This is how you will find it, okay? What we want to do is type this -12, or you can do -10 or -8. Again, we're doing this to give ourselves headroom. Then I'm going to make sure that under the save settings, I want the setting that I'm about to save, which is the -12, would be affected to every session that I open up. So I'm going to make sure that under settings, it is in setting, we're going to set it to user settings. Okay, it's going to be our own user. And then we're going to save this to the session folder, not to the root settings folder. Well, actually, no. I want it to be on the root settings folder because I want it to affect all of the sessions. So it's going to save here on the root settings folder. Again, one more time, if I confuse you, I apologize for that. It's going to be a user setting, which is our setting. And it's going to be set on the root settings folder so that it affects all of our sessions, not just this session, but all of our sessions. Then I'm going to save it as, and in this case, you guys can see that I already have two versions of it, the -12 and the -15. So I'm going to save it as -12. And I'm going to hit save. Already exists. Go ahead. Replace it, yes. After I've done so, I'm going to click on it and I'm going to set the -12 to set as user default. What that should do is that every time now that I open up again trim, I know now that it's at the almost bottom end, it should jump to -12. So it's very simple, and that's how I do it every time. and again. So why is it that I do this? Let me find a track that is kind of loud in here. I think one of these loop tracks was kind of loud. Perfect, this first loop track. Let's look at this track. This track, out of default, is already peaking, okay? So it is too loud. The reason behind it is that there is a calibration that when we do calibration in audio, minus 18 dB in audio tends to be a general rule of thumb. Some people will calibrate to minus 16. I normally think of it being on minus 18 dB on digital. So I'm going to put here a signal generator, other, signal generator. Where are you? Multi-mono, sorry for that. Signal generator. I pressed mute before so that we don't go that. I'm going to press it to minus 18. I'm going to click on the red dot so that this plugin stays open. And I'm going to load in a BU meter. I think that Waves has a BU meter. Remember, I'm not trying to push you for any brand in particular. It's just that I need a BU meter. Great. So 0 is equal to minus 18. And if I put this Pro Tools meter on the traditional Pro Tools Classic, it's this low. And this is what confused a lot of people. On the traditional meters, it was too low of a signal, so it visually looked too low. So people were afraid and were pushing this. And because of that, we were running out of headroom. Again, remember, the whole purpose of this is to run the session safely so that you're not distorting or saturating without knowing it. That's why we put the trim at the very beginning. There is a document on the shell of why I'm doing this that explains the equivalent. 1.2 volts equals minus 18 dBFS, the digital scale, which is equal to 0 BU. So that's the reason why I put trims on all of my channels at the very beginning. I'm going to take this channel, sorry, this plugin out, and there's no need for the BU meter either. The only channel, I'm going to bring all of the tracks back to being active. Again, I press Option Command in any of them. The only channel that I normally don't leave them to minus 12, but somewhere to minus 7 or so are the vocal channels, because, or at least the vocal track, because they tend to be very dynamic. So if you just leave them in comparison to the other tracks, it might be too soft. And I will apply the same to the space echo. Actually, the space echo is so low you cannot even see it that I'm going to leave it for now at 0. You could bypass it just to remind yourself that that is at 0. I apologize for this longer video, but I hope these things are serving you. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.